Yeah, my name is Orijemie Akpo. Originally, I have a first degree in botany and my master's degree and PhD degree in archaeology, all from the University of Ibadan. So, my areas of interest are paleontology, archaeobotany, environmental archaeology, and environmental reconstruction. So, these are the things that I love. I'm currently a senior lecturer in the Department of Archaeology and Anthropology, University of Ibadan, and on leave at the Max Planck Institute for Geoanthropology, Vienna in Germany. I'm a Alexander von Humboldt Fellow, and I do archaeology. I love archaeology, and I speak archaeology. I got into archaeology by not by accident, but on purpose. Well, because Professor Showme at the time intentionally made me to come into archaeology. When I came to the University of Ibadan in 2002 to pick a master's degree from, she insisted that I would do my master's in archaeology. And I asked her if it was why she wanted it that way. She gave me a small lecture, brief lecture for about 15 minutes. And I became convinced that it was something I needed, really wanted to do. And when I started my master's, there was no going back for me. And then my PhD, and all that. So since then, I have been fully involved in archaeology within and outside Nigeria. It's been very great because archaeology makes you to know things that you take for granted or things that you not really think about. For example, how does environment shape, influence culture? Many people don't think about it. They just think, oh, this is where my forefathers have been behaving. These are tradition. But behind all that, there are little or subtle factors that shape, how we behave. And one of the strongest of these is climate change or environmental change. So that has made me to be more conscious about my environment and, to know what to do at the right time and, how not to make the environment very angry. I propagate this gospel anywhere I go, whether within, outside Nigeria, even within my family. My kids, my wife, they know about archaeology, and of course, it also makes me understand some of the things that my father was telling me when I was younger. Although he did not say it in the way that we know in archaeology today, but it made me understand that our cultural traditions, are very, very important. And with the perspective from archaeology, I know that I really have to be conscious of certain things that my people do or that we do as Nigerians or Africans that does not really make kind of quote unquote much sense in the Western world. So it makes me really appreciate what I am, who I am, where I'm coming from, and where I'm going to. Yes, when I started dating my fiancée at the time, now my wife, I introduced her to archaeology, and I'm very proud to say that today she knows quite a lot about archaeology. And I think twice I've taken my kids to field school in the department, one in Ajibode, and the other was during the forensic archaeology training near the department, handled by myself and Dr. Padaji at the time. So they came, spent some time, and if not for distance and some logistics challenges, my family really, really love to be with me when I'm doing academic field work. But of course, in Nigeria, you have to think of many other things. But generally speaking, my immediate family knows about my work very well. And then my extended family, what I mean is that my mom, my siblings, they know quite a lot of what I do. My younger sister was with me in Benue in 2017. She stayed with me for 7 weeks during the field training, and she really enjoyed it. So my family is really very involved and they love what I do. And much more than that, they also participate and enjoy the benefits of archaeology. In West Africa, people think that there is no evidence of human or hominin evolution. People always look to East Africa and South Africa, and recently North Africa when they talk about human evolution. They think West Africa is a blank. If you look at many of the maps, many of the graphics that depict human evolution, you see that West Africa is a blank. We are trying to change that narrative. Of course, we've not found human remains that are old as maybe beyond 20 or 30,000 years. but we have lithic tools that show that hominins were here, at least in Senegal and in Ivory Coast. We have dates of approximately or over 150,000 years, and the tools, they look very similar in terms of technology and in terms of use to those that are used by other Homo sapien recovered from East Africa, South Africa, and Southern Africa and Northern Africa. So my job is to look at the environmental context of human evolution in West Africa during this period. And my two sites or country places where I work are Senegal and Nigeria. And in Senegal, I studied a 14-meter deep core taken from Lac de Guiers in Senegal. And then in Nigeria, I looked at excavated the rock shelter in Ijare. We've not got a date yet, but in terms of finds and in terms of structure, it looks very similar to Iwilero, which has the only record of Pleistocene hominin remain, but it's a very young date of about 14,000 years. So that's basically my research, to see in ways, first of all, reconstruct the environment and see how they influence human evolution in West Africa during the time period that we're dealing with. Yes, where I've been fortunate to find a few discoveries. The first one of them was when I was in Cambridge. Until that time, there were no archaeobotanical records for yams, and everybody was, concerned, looking for, how one could find them. Fortunately, one of my excavations where I floated some samples and we recovered the charred parenchyma cells of yams, and not just ordinary yam, domesticated yams or yams that are cultivated, and that's a major one for Nigeria, even for Africa. Of course, recently I've found pollen grains that are not from West Africa in the Senegal core that I told you of. These pollen grains are original to Brazil or South America. So the question is, how did they cross the Atlantic Ocean and come to Senegal at about 5,000 or 6,000 years ago? So these, we are looking at a possibility of whether it is water transport or air transport, we really do not know. And then very early in my career in 2010, I found pollen grains of plants that are original to Madagascar, India, and I think part of China, in a site called Ajaba in northern Osun State. So the question was, how did they get there? And we started thinking, did they come through a pre-Islamic route, through the ocean, and all that? So these help to shape the way we view human interaction with one another across distance, across space, over time. And it was really very fascinating for me when it became one of my first, not one of my first, but it was my first publication in 2010, the British Archaeological Review, and I was really glad to find that those pollen grains. Until date, is still being cited, among some of the papers that deal with such context in Africa and West Africa. Usually, the challenge in this part of the world is having to explain what archaeology is, or what you do to stakeholders. But stakeholders in this instance, sorry, I withdraw the word stakeholders. What I mean those who own the property, particularly land, because archaeology deals with artifacts that are buried under the soil, and these soils or these sometimes they are often in disputed territories. So I'll share two instances. The first one was in Iwilero, where in 2019 we were trying to re-excavate the site, and we're dealing with a particular community unknown to us. Another community was laying claim to the property, and then they came and all hell was let loose. We were asked to leave the site. So what I did was to quickly evacuate the people there, because there were three people from outside Nigeria. One was from the US, one was from Cambridge, and the other was from Germany. So my job was to quickly take them out, and we had about 3 postgraduate students from our department as well. So I had to do that salvage journey. The second was recently when we wanted to start excavating Ijare. Of course, we had to interact with the community, and there was a little bit of disputes in a way, and the professor came to my rescue and he helped me to settle everything. Unfortunately, the man died just about 2 days or 3 days after we started the excavation. So those are pretty much my. And then there was a last one, I think last year. Somebody didn't really understand what was happening. We had talked to the family. He wasn't there at the meeting. He came. He said that we're excavating the grave of his forefathers. Asked us to stop our work, and we had to stop obviously. And then I had to do sort of negotiation, talk with the community elders and so on. Eventually, it was resolved, but of course, we lost a day or two, but everything went fine at the end of it. The only thing I would say is that I talk to God all the time. Long before I go to the field, I start talking to God and conversing with Him that, guy, I'm going to the field. I might experience some challenges. I need you to help me. And when I experience challenges, I just go to Him in a small corner and say, please, could you help me out? And when I'm confused in terms of where to dig, if I don't have a GPR, that's the ground penetrating radar, and I don't have much time in the field, I don't want to waste time. I just say, God, could you please help me? God, guide me. And most times He does. So much of my discoveries that I've found so far, they are not really because of my ingenuity or anyway. No, I usually talk to God. I would say, usually I do fast for 3 or more days if I know that what I'm going to do is really, really serious. Because I believe everything is spiritual, and because as a human being, your ability is limited. So if you have someone who is unlimited in his way, why don't you hook on to that person? And usually it helps. So maybe that's what will pass for my ritual. Well, my role models, obviously, first of all, it was Orijemie, who passed away in April. That is a role model that I love so much. I didn't expect her to die so early, even though she died at 85, but she's one of my role models. I have other role models, but they are not really archaeologists. I didn't meet Basianda. I was too young. I was in my first year in university when he died, but reading his works and looking at the things that he did, I really, really I'm fascinated by, some of his papers and some of the things that he did. And then I look at Professor Folonshaw within here as well. Professor Folonshaw has helped me in my career so much, and is somebody that I really look up to. I admire him quite a lot. And then outside the country in Europe, Renfrew, who passed away, some maybe like I don't know how maybe 6 months ago, was also somebody that I read his work, Ban and Renfrew, and it was a really, really classic. And I was very happy to meet him physically when he was having his 80th birthday in Cambridge. So these are some of the few people that I have been my role models in archaeology. Of course, there are others in polling studies, but I just keep that. Historical figure. Okay, let's say Nelson Mandela because of his political views and because he's a great role model in Africa, and his style of politics is very rare in this part of the world. Somebody who just ruled for a first term, was in prison for 28 years, came back, forgave, people who did terrible things against him. If I could have dinner with him, that would be really great. A dream site is a site that contains a deep stratified Pleistocene record. When I mean Pleistocene, I mean from the beginning of the Pleistocene down to the end of the Pleistocene. I'm talking about 2.6 million years. A site that has that stratified sequence. One, it also has all the organic materials, whether it's pollen, whether it's soil, whether it's bone, and all that. That would be very perfect. Then what I would like to engage in this part of the world, the LGM, what people call the LGM, the last glacial maximum, which I call the last aridity maximum, or the last arid maximum rather, is we don't know much about it in this part of the world because we don't have sequences that show that. So I would really love to see a site that has that, and then do all the kind of analysis on it, whether it's pollen, environmental DNA, geoarchaeology, sedimentology, isotope, everything, so that we understand how it occurred and how humans were able to cope with that very dry period of about, I think, about 5 or 6 thousand years of aridity in Africa. Yes, people think archaeologists dig up graves and then we look for diamonds and gold. In Ife last week, we're doing quarry along river channels, and we're told, oh, we're looking for gold. We told them, no, we're not looking for gold, even though our kind of job is a bit similar to those that prospect, for gold. So that's a misconception, that we look for gold and they are ready to say, oh, there's gold here. We want you to give us some money and all that. And I also think we dig up graves. Incidentally, we do. It's not part of our desire, but sometimes some research goals, objectives are tailored in that direction. If you're looking at diseases, if you're looking at war crimes, you're looking at forensic, yes. But most times, we do not go all out to dig graves, because we understand it has ethical dimensions and all that. So those are the two conceptions that we have experienced. Love archaeology, dream archaeology, and fall in love with archaeology. That's the only way you can grow in the discipline. If you do not love archaeology, you will despise the discipline. You will not be pushed, to discover things. But if you dream, speak, see, love archaeology, the sky is the beginning.